Can keep my hands on myself. Pick out dust them off, put them back up on the shelf. Kiss my little baby girl is in need. Am I coming out of left field? Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks. I've been feeling it since 1966 now. Might be over now, but I feel it still. Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks now. Let me kick it like it's 1986 now. Might be over now, but I feel it still. Got another mouth to feed. Leave it with the babies till the mama call the grave digger. Gone with the falling leaves. Am I coming out of left field? Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks now. I've been feeling it since 1966.
G'day guys, how's it going? Sitting in the back of my van here in a little alleyway in Adelaide. I've got a comedy night on tonight at the Cranker Comedy Club. I think there's about 13 comedians on, so I'm getting about 5 minutes. I go on third, taking the night off work so I can have a couple of beers. Just been sitting in here relaxing, trying to remember what I'm going to say, and also reading Phil Hellmuth's book Poker Brat. I've got to read it real soon because I bought it for my brother-in-law for Christmas, and he doesn't know about it until he sees this video, so I need to get it finished so I can put the main soft cover back on it, wrap it and get it to him. So yeah, if we get this far, it means I've gone for a game of poker after. I should be finished by about 9 o'clock at the comedy place. Might hang around there for a while, have a couple of beers, we'll see what happens, and then hopefully we'll walk down to the casino and we'll have a session in there. Got nothing on tomorrow. Training's all stopped for the year, so I'll be back driving the taxi tomorrow night at about 4:30, so I can go and have a bit of a session tonight and have a sleep in and get back to work tomorrow afternoon. So we'll catch you guys later after I've done the comedy set and let you know if I stuffed up or whether they heckled me or whether they threw oranges or tomatoes at me. So we'll see how it goes. I'll let you know in a minute. So just finished my comedy set. Went bloody good, I think. Pretty happy with it. My timing and everything was a lot better. Good crowd in there. It was packed, overflowing. Big thanks to my sister and her husband John for coming in. John's the other poker player, and also their daughter Charlie came in and had a look, and they also brought a few friends along. So good night, enjoyed it. So now we're going to sneak off and go and have a game of poker.
Can keep my hands on myself. Pick out dust them off, put them back up on the shelf. Kiss my little baby girl is in need. Am I coming out of left field? Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks now. I've been feeling it since 1966 now. Might be over now, but I feel it still. Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks now. Let me kick it like it's 1986 now. Might be over now, but I feel it still. Got another mouth to feed. Leave it with the babies till the mama call the grave digger. Gone with the falling leaves. Am I coming out of left field? Ooh, I'm a rebel.
G'day guys, how's it going? What a crazy night of poker. Pretty good table we're on, fairly loose. Two really tight players who really didn't do anything and were nothing to be scared of. The rest were recreational players. Worst two players was two guys from New Zealand. They thought they knew what they were doing, the way they talked. I think they thought they knew more about the game than what they actually did. They were going crazy. They were playing it a bit like a tournament and going all in and all that shit all the time. I was waiting my turn with them. When I did get a run against one of them, I was up about 200 bucks at that stage, and I raised with a pair of queens, and he went all in for about 480, and I called. He played, it was Jack 9, and he did the unbelievable, flopped the straight, and that was it. So we dug back in though, got him back a few times, and I had a bit of a run, and I was gradually niggling back at him. Got him a few times, and right at the end I got him one more time for all the rest of his money with a pair of kings, and he called with Queen 10, I think it was. He went all in again on me, and I snap called him, and got it. So ended up being a pretty good night. I ended up being in for $500 and cashed out for, just looking down here, $1,108. So $608 up. Pretty happy with that. It's a good little effort, especially coming back when I was probably down about $200 or so at one stage, $250 down. So ended up good. So yeah, do a few hand reviews later on, and we'll catch you guys later. And yeah, I better show you the chips here. My very first $1,000 chip. Pretty happy with that one. And a couple more to cash in. So we'll catch you guys later. So now for a few hand reviews. Been a bit slack with my editing. I had most of the vlog finished, so I've been waiting to do these hand reviews, and it's now the Thursday after Christmas. I hope you guys had a great Christmas. I've had this week off, so been a bit slack, taking it easy. If you've seen my earlier vlogs, you know I live on the banks of the River Murray. So been down the river, got the boat in, been doing a bit of fishing, taking the kids out or my son and his mates out water skiing. A few of my mates coming down with their kids water skiing, having a few beers, put the yabby pots in. Not going real good with them. If you're from overseas, yabbies are an Australian freshwater cray. Just smallish. I suppose they range from the eating size, probably from about 4 inches up to maybe 10 inches. But had no luck with them. Not too sure. I don't think they have yabbies in other countries. Let me know if you're from overseas and you've heard of yabbies before. But yeah, a little freshwater cray. So I've been having a good time down there, relaxing. And but about time I finished off this vlog with these hand reviews. So just to set the table up, again I'm just using share my pair. I'm just going to put the players in that were sort of half involved in the hand, so the table doesn't get too crowded and look too ugly. In this table for most of the night, seats 1 and 2 were those 2 New Zealand guys, very loose, playing crazy, thought they knew a lot more about the game than they really did. The one at table in seat 2 ended up going back to the teller machine probably 3 or 4 times, and luckily the one in seat 1 was just winning the right amount to stay there, and actually won a big one off of me. So we'll go through that hand a bit later. Rest of the table, we had a couple there that were there most of the night, seats 7 and 8. They were 2 semi-regs, very tight, didn't have much to do with any of their hands. And seat 3 was a semi-reg too. Hadn't seen him before, but just the way he was talking to the dealers and that, looked like he'd been there a few times. And having a chat to him, he seemed to know what he was doing. So this first hand, the rest of the seats sort of kept people coming in and out as usual on a Saturday night. So ended up being a pretty good table, especially with those 2 New Zealanders. So this first hand, I end up getting dealt a pair of 10s. I'm in the low jack. Under the gun, where are we? Under the gun +1 ends up calling. Middle player next to me raises to 20. I just call. Option there, probably the 3-bet. Not too sure. I end up just calling early in the night, so I'm probably playing a bit soft. Get a pretty handy flop there with my trip 10s. Checks around to the middle player, who ends up betting the $42. I end up just calling, and not too sure again, slow playing it in this position. I thought it was a good option, not much on the board. Maybe if he's got drawn to a flush, I might be in trouble, but I end up slow playing it. The under the gun +1 ends up folding, and that leaves me head to head with the bloke to my right in the middle position. Turn, very handy, pair up with the 9, so I got my full house. He bets 45, I raise him to 90, and he actually went in the tank for a little while to sort it out and ends up calling me. So we get to see the river. Again, bit of a brick. Obviously, if he's got a pair of 9s, he's got me scun. If he's got a pair of queens, we're in trouble. But the way the betting was going on, he didn't have any of that. So I end up, he checks. I put him all in for his $88. He goes into the tank and got a little bit interesting here. He's in the tank for probably over a minute, and then he looks at me and he says, "Have you got a 9?" And I don't usually do much table talk or any of that sort of stuff, but I end up doing triple reverse psychology. I don't know if there's such a thing, but there is now. And I look at him and tell him, "No, I've got a pair of 10s. He goes in the tank again, and he eventually calls me. After he calls me, I get in trouble from the dealer. You're not supposed to tell him what your hand are, so a bit of bullshit there. Not too many hassles, but would be interesting to know what your rules are. If you've watched my intro vlog, you'll know that I was a poker dealer for 10 years, and it was a while back, but back in my day, people could say what they want. I watch hundreds and hundreds of poker videos. There's a fair bit of speech play going on there. So my take on this is, if you're head-to-head cash game, you should be able to say whatever you bloody want. But anyway, it must be a thing at the Adelaide Casino that you can't do it. So not too sure. But the player to my right, he had no problem with it. So he just said, yeah, good hand. So I end up winning a fairly nice pot there. $504. So this next hand, I get into a hand with the crazy New Zealander sitting on seat 1. In this hand, he was under the gun +1, and I was in the hijack. So I end up getting dealt a pair of queens. He'd been doing a fair bit of raising, but he just calls the $2, which is a bit weird in his position, the way he was playing. His mate in seat 2 also called the $2. I raised it up to $22. Not too sure the raise was big enough. Let me know. Maybe I should have gone bigger. But anyway, it gets back around to the crazy New Zealander, and he just goes all in for his 440. So I end up snap calling. He'd been just playing rubbish all night. This is probably an hour and a half on from when I played the last hand. So he'd been going all in with Queen Jack, 10 Jack, 8 9 suited, just weird stuff. Like he was down to bloody 5 big blinds in a tournament and just going for it. So I'd been waiting for my chance to get in there, so I'm pretty well snap call, and we get to see the flop there. He ends up turning over, and he had 9 Jack, so he had rubbish again. But in this situation, he ended up flopping the nut straight. So don't know if I could have done anything different. I think I played it right, especially the way he was playing. If it had been a tight player and he's gone all in, I might have been a bit soft and eventually folded. But with this guy, it was a definite call. I think obviously I got bloody unlucky with the flop. So we live to fight another day though. So that put me down a bit then. I think I was probably down about 250. I end up rebuying back in up to $300. So I can get started again. So this next hand, I'm probably on a slight little bit of tilt. I don't usually get on tilt that much, but he's probably pissed me off a little bit. This is about only 5 minutes after that last hand, and I end up getting, I'm on the button, I end up getting dealt 7-2 of clubs. Now, I don't know whether it's a play or not, but on a slight bit of tilt, I'm going to play. He'd already raised it. Same guy raises it to 35, so I'm thinking I'm going in here to see a flop. As it was, ended up being me and his mate again and one other. Flop comes down very, very handy for me. I get the flush. So, first guy checks it, back around to the crazy guy, he bets 45, and I just go all in. Next guy folds, we're back to the crazy guy. He practically snap calls me because 2 10s bugger all for him. He just had king 9, pair of kings, and thankfully no improvement, and I get one back on him. So with this next hand, guys, I get caught up with crazy New Zealander number 2. He's playing about as good as number 1, but having less luck and been back to the teller machine a few times. He's gone his last 130. I get dealt ace king of spades. His mate calls, and then all of a sudden, crazy New Zealander number 2 goes all in for 130. I end up going all in after him. I want to isolate. I want to get rid of those other players. Although I'm not too bothered about crazy New Zealander number 1. Getting rid of the blinds, want to get rid of them, but the other New Zealander, if he wants to come in for it, I'm pretty sure I'm in front of him by a fair bit, so unless he gets lucky again on me. But as it was, they all end up folding back around to the all-in player, and he ends up showing 10 jack. So I've got him pretty well covered here, just hoping I get through from here. Flop's pretty good for me. I get an ace, but he gets a jack too, so I'm still a little bit worried. And we get through, ended up getting a king on the river for 2 pair. So got through that okay, and ended up getting a nice little pot there of $266. And that was the end of crazy New Zealander number 2. So with this last hand, the table had whittled down to probably 5 or 6 runners. Everyone's just playing because of the crazy New Zealander number 1. Number 2 had already gone. We cleaned him up in that last hand. He'd gone up to the rail and was watching, and his mate, the crazy New Zealander number 1, actually had his chip stack probably up to about $700 or $800 there at one stage, but now his mate wasn't playing. You could tell he just wanted to get out there, win or lose. So with this hand, I end up getting my pair of kings just at the right time. So he's under the gun +1, and he just goes all in with 330. I end up going all in too because I want to isolate. I want to get rid of the 2 blinds. And we just left heads up. So he ends up turning over Queen 10. Honey, he called with Queen 10. Flop, turn, river, all very good for me. So I end up scooping the pot. $664. That was the end of him for the night. And that was the end of the table too for the night.
This is how an angel does. I'm a Thank